Give it up, Rachel Bay Jones, one more time. Keep clapping.
Hey.
This woman is nominated for a Tony. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
3 claps. Can we get a fourth? I think we get a fourth clap out of them at some point while we're sitting here. Talk to me about what that's like. Let's talk about the show, but what was it like when you found out that you were nominated? Where were you? How did you hear?
Oh, I was home, and probably the most perfect story is that
Expecting to be nominated?
No, I mean, I was hoping, like I hadn't slept for weeks at that point, waiting to see if that was going to happen. But my daughter, who's 14, was also very excited at the prospect of me being nominated. And I got up in the morning, as I always do, and got her ready for school and sent her off to school. And because the nominations weren't coming out until after she would have been in class for a half an hour already. So I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want her to worry or stress about it during the day.
Did you call the school and get her taken out of class?
We totally did. We
did
called
really?
the school,
and
we're like, Mommy got nominated, And she's like, oh, thank God. She said, I didn't say anything the whole morning. I thought you forgot.
That is such like the experience of like a New York City teenager.
I know, right? Can you please take my daughter out of class so I can
imagine the principal or like walking down to the class. Excuse me, honey, could you come with us, please? And she'll, what I do? And she's like, your mother just wants you to know that you're nominated for a Tony. You can go back to class now. Here you go.
Yeah, that was pretty real.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
You were at home when you found out. Did you start celebrating immediately?
I kind of, I was a little in shock. It sort of well, I'm like that anyway. I'm slow. It takes things a while to sort of register. And then it was a little bit later that afternoon where I kind of was walking around like, can I curse? Yeah. Holy shit was pretty much like my inner monologue. Now
take me back to the beginning of Dear Evan Hansen. Did you start with the show in D.C. all the way back to the beginning?
Yeah, I actually was in the first table read of the script. So the first time that the authors and creative team had heard the show out loud, they had invited a group of us to come and read it. Ben Platt was among them, the other parents, Jennifer Laura Thompson and Michael Park, and I were all part of that very first table read, and we were invited to come participate in a read of the new Pasek Paul Levinson musical. It was untitled at the time.
You were participating in a read. You had an audition for this or anything like that? You were, the four of you were just sort of actors that they knew they liked and wanted to hear. That's so incredible.
Yeah, so which is amazing when that happens, and then amazing that it gets this far, but we weren't, what was kind of fun and also terrifying about it was we didn't know anything about it. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what our characters were, but they said, and they wouldn't let us peek in the script when we arrived in the rehearsal room. They said, wait, and then when they said go, we could open the first page and start to read it cold. And so we were discovering the story as we were acting the story out.
The play itself, the story has developed since then. It's changed a significant amount going from that DC period to off-Broadway to Broadway, right?
Yes, it has. It has. And
can you talk about how it's changed?
There have been so many things, gosh. But, I think what's interesting about it is that having something that's wholly original, that's coming right there from the minds of this creative team and that you can participate in is an experience that doesn't often happen in theater and musical theater. Usually things are based on a movie or a book, so the moment of the original story being created has already happened, and there's very little room to play once you get into the place where the actors come in. But being part of this creative process for so many years, actually, we got to see the story changed, and it was kind of like a Wild West experience. Like there were no rules. There were no.
It's been like 3-4 years now?
It's been 3.5 years, I think. Yeah, 3.5.
So has it been 3.5 years that you've been with this show alone?
Well, there were other things that have happened for me since then, and I think I was still doing Pippin on Broadway when we went to the first reading of this. So it's been a while,
So as the story is developing and changing, basically you're performing it, you're singing it, they're sort of seeing what needs to be changed. Yeah. How involved are the actors in that sort of creative process as well as the performers? Are you just sort of showing them their ideas and then they're deciding, or are they asking you questions about the character or where you think it should go?
It's both. It's definitely both. And I think we were all cast because we are so like these characters, and they wanted to write these characters around us.
Are you like the woman in this show?
I'm a lot more, put together. No, I'm not actually at all. I'm a hot mess. So yeah, no. She's
a wonderful character, and we should talk about it. She's a single mother. She's doing everything that she can, and she's also tough, which I loved about her as well. She's a really tough woman.
Yeah,
strong.
I love that about her too. And I had been I raised my daughter alone for a period of years, and so I have that single mom relationship with her, which is really interesting and different. I think from there's a specific thing that single parents have with their kids, single moms especially. There's a bond, there's a you and me against the world kind of feeling about it that was very much a part of the Evan and Heidi relationship from the beginning. And, things have changed inside of that, and her dysfunction has ebbed and flowed in the script, but that central idea has always been present.
Were you a single mom and a working actor in New York City at the same time?
As a single mom and trying to be a working actor at the same time, and that's
so
really
cool.
tough. Yeah, it's so cool.
Well, I mean, it's cool from my perspective. That's like you're so brave and strong, and that's cool.
You're nice.
I'm sure for you, it was like every day we didn't know what we were
cool.
doing.
Yeah, no.
Can I ask, what was that like? What were those years like? And how? I mean, we'll bring it back and how you brought it to this story. But it just as a working actor and a struggling working actor, it sounds like, in a single mom in New York. What were those years like?
There was a lot of just trying to catch whatever gigs you can grab, And so for me, like I had gone away from the business for a while, and I was coming, I was coming back into the business now with a daughter who was 2 years old, and I was coming back to New York. I had lived on Maui for, so I was coming back to everything. And
what
still
drove you
a
back
new
to the
mother.
business? Was it the idea of being an actress, or did you get a break of some kind?
No break. No break. No, it was the idea of finally reconciling myself to the fact that I just needed to do this work, that this was work that I was ready to do finally in a real way, and that I needed to do it. So finally committing to living in New York City, finally committing to plowing ahead and sticking it out, and just to see if we could make one final go at something that I'd struggled with for 20 years. So
it's really beautiful. Like, I know it was
I'm really glad it has a happy ending, or at least a happy like, here I am on AOL Builds, and it's all great, We'll see, but it's it's so far so good.
If it didn't have a happy ending, you wouldn't be on the stage. You'd be telling this story at a barbecue in some other city.
What an idiot! Like, what the hell was I thinking? Now I'm 50.
Like, are you happy you put your daughter through that, or like, what is the thing here?
But it's a lot, that she made a lot of sacrifices too, and she knows it, and we talk about
your
it.
scene partner?
She was never my scene partner.
You never made her read with you or anything for auditions? Really?
I didn't. No, I should have.
I think that's just a scene that I want to see in a movie or something.
Yeah, that would be
that
really
didn't happen to you.
Maybe I'll try that sometime. Yeah, no, she was good, but it was a matter of hiring people to. Luckily, we had somebody shared a nanny with me, so I didn't have to spend that much on this wonderful. And she was a very maternal, loving woman who actually would spend the night in my house when I had to be away for 2 or 3 days. She would be the mother to my kid, So I would go off and do short gigs and concerts and things like that, and then to try to make a buck and
That's so cool.
And I had to get an agent all over again, and it's a lot. A lot, but she did it.
So the creators of Dear Evan Hansen knew this about you, and that is why they brought you on for the show.
Yes.
And so in that case, what kind of questions did they ask you about the character? Does this feel believable, or is this how you feel with your kid? Do they ask you questions like that?
They don't specifically ask, and maybe they would have if I hadn't been so, if I hadn't volunteered all of that information, right? I kind of not very demure about, well, you guys, what do you think? Maybe this could have a little bit more. I'm always like, okay, no, she really got to do this. She's got to say this. It's got to, So there was, and the boys have all been really, really patient with me and really humble about accepting that information, and also strongly opinionated when that didn't fit into their version of the story too. So there were things like, we all talk about our losses, because there were these, especially with people so talented, these writers are so good, and our director's so good, and our producer's so good, everybody's so good, that everything that got cut was a golden moment, So but you can't have a show full of golden moments. It would be a 10-hour show and no one would want to come, So in order to streamline the story, there were whole scenes of interactions, or portions of scenes that were interactions that were very single parent, caretaking son that I miss. But now they're down to one line. The way Ben says a certain line, gives us all of that, how the child of a single parent wants to take care of the parent, and
this situation, and in this case, shield them from something. He's taking care of her by shielding her from his private life.
And that's how good these writers are, is that, so Evan spends so much time lying and lying and lying, and what's so endearing about him is that so much of this trap that he's gotten into with these lies has been to try to take care of everybody else, and so part of why he does that is he's been raised by a single parent. He's been raised by a single parent who he's had to who he feels like he has to take care of, so there was used to be a lot of material that showed a lot more of that, but now we don't need it. It's just evidenced in their relationship together.
At the end of every performance, what do you say to Ben?
We don't say a lot, but we have like a really needed hug after our first. We have a little mini curtain call at the end, and then we go off and come back on for the individual bows, and we hug and blow noses and stuff. It's pretty.
I mean, everyone's phenomenal in the show. Ben particularly feels like he has an endurance test every performance, though, and that's just sort of what do you say to him? What does he do at the end of a show? Does he collapse in the green room?
Once we say goodbye at that, he's got his own, thing, and it's in that way we have a very parent-child relationship.
Perhaps if you need to, just make sure you show up tomorrow for the performance. Essentially,
yeah. It's it's very intimate, but also too, I don't know what his life is like outside of the theater too much. He doesn't tell his mom. He doesn't tell his mom enough.
You said that you have such incredible writers and directors, and I agree with you. Now, I'm curious what a great director feels like during the process, because a great writer, they're a great writer because it's on the page. You can say, you can be like, oh, okay, this is great writing. A great director, you don't really know. I mean, I guess you can get a sense of how good they are, really. Yeah. Because, it's in when you see everything play out, you're like, oh, this is wonderfully directed. What does it feel like to be well-directed in the moment?
Well-directed in the moment for an actor is always, especially when so much of the life of the development of the show is in a room, a bare rehearsal room. So much of it is in, a good director for an actor finds just the right thing to say to them that sort of is the key that unlocks bigger truth, It sort of opens a pathway for you to be able to go down yourself, and they trust you, and then if there's some way that you're struggling, you can go to them and they can say, think about this, and allow you to be your own creative person, but giving you the tools sometimes when you're lacking them, and honing their, so they have a specific vision that they show you the path for that. Does that make sense? So Michael Greif is really, really, he's incredibly exacting, and it's very frustrating sometimes as an actor, especially with my kind of, I'm a blah actor, I just kind of do it all. I put it all out there for you. And he's like, okay, try to just shave a little bit off of that. I'm like, why? It's so good, But he really, really carefully shaves away your performance and makes it more and more, finely tuned and perfect. And it's really beautiful, but I trusted him implicitly immediately because of his track record and because of who he is. So, but it took me a while to relax into it because he's a perfectionist, and he lets me yell at him too. Like I used to be like, you're on my heels all the time like a terrier. You won't leave me alone, And he's like, so he'd be on the microphone in the middle of one of our tech rehearsals like, Rachel, it's the terrier. Will you please do the thing that I asked you to do? Okay.
What are usually the things that someone, like in that specific situation, what is something that you would normally be asked to do? Is it like a specific blocking thing, or is it like an
no,
emotional
blocking
cue?
usually, that's fine. He's got the total eye for that. What it is, it's like intent of the line. Like when you say the line, mean this instead of the thing that you want it to mean, So, and then a lot of times for Michael, it's really, really, really nitpicky, and which ultimately makes the tightest show that I've ever been in. This show, it just goes, it's beautiful. Like there's never a bad show, never a bad performance or a sloppy performance because it's so finely constructed. But he'll say things like there was one time he kept asking me to do the same note over and over again, and he really wanted me to take out a pause somewhere that I felt was really important. I felt like that was a really important transition. That air between this line and the next one was really important. And he kept asking me over and over again. And he's the kind of director who writes out things on a little white notepad, so you get these dear little white, slips of paper. And he would come into the dressing room and he'd say, maybe you can take out that pause. And I'd say, no, I really need that pause, and here's why. And he'd say, And the next day he'd come in and say, perhaps today is the day where you can take out that pause. And I'd say, no, it's not. I'm never going to take out the pause. No. We have a friendly relationship where I could kind of do that with him. And so the next day, the next day, though, I'm not kidding, like every day for weeks, I was getting these every day. He would come in very patiently and be like, is today the day that you can take out the pause? Why don't you try taking out the pause? And we sort of butted heads about it in a friendly way. One time I just did it, and God damn it, if that guy wasn't so right. Not only in that very second, which was the only thing that I was concerned about, was the truth of that one little moment and what I wanted to say as an actor in that moment, but the way that the blocks fell after I followed his direction, the way that everything tumbled together after that moment was really beautiful. And that's when I knew I'm never going to be a director. Like, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, that's what they do. They have the grand vision.
You were playing for your moment, and he was playing everything off of each
for
other.
the story,
yeah. Absolutely. No. I want to go back to this, why you were cast, because they knew you were a single mother. I'm curious what your daughter thought of the show when she saw it. Did she see any similarities between your lives? Was she emotionally affected by it in a way that she didn't expect or anything?
She actually was the one who called. She called it. She knew it was going to be a hit, which I think is really interesting. She kept saying that over and over again, and we were all hoping, that was. But she knew. She's always said that from the beginning. But yeah, she finds it painful to watch. She's watched it, I think, 5 or 6 times.
So she's a masochist.
Well, it's more like you're coming to the opening night. Okay, and she loves it, and she thinks it's so beautiful, and but I think it's painful for her because it is so affecting, and because there is a truth in the relationship, and she won't tell me what it is, but she said there's a point in the So Big So Small song that I sing to Evan. She says that always makes me cry, and it's really hard for me to watch.
I thought, and I told you this in the room, I thought that your character was the most moving for me, and I thought that song was the most moving. There is something about the relationship of a single mother and her son and the us against the world storyline that it's very affecting.
That's pretty real.
Yeah.
We get a lot of response from the audience about that.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has a question? Right here.
First of all, your performance is absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it. So after 3.5 years and 8 shows a week, how do you keep every single performance powerful and fresh for a new audience?
Well, it hasn't been 3.5 years straight. Let me just clarify that. But yeah, but even so, I've been given the gift of long runs before, and I say it's a gift because as an actor, we're constantly looking for truth inside of the story. And what's interesting about doing the same thing over and over again is that your brain is always looking for something new, because otherwise you do get bored. So you don't just check out. Your brain's looking for something new. And so what's it going to do? So what happens is you start to just drop in immediately. Like immediately you're in it. It doesn't take anything for you to go into it because the story's so good and you've been doing it for so long, it's like a home. and then your brain suddenly will just find something that you didn't notice was there, like this beautiful little diamond in the murky depths, and it sets off a whole new thing that you can explore as an actor. It's about those tiny little moments that are so beautiful and rich. And I feel like, it really gives me something as an actor. One of the most beautiful things for me is that it gives us a chance, and it's kind of sweet and a little sad, but there's so many times in life where we wish we could go back and live that again and do it right. We just want to do it right this time, or like go back and like really, really enjoy that, really experience that. And so with these long runs, we're living these moments of our lives, even if it's a story, there's so much truth in it, but we get to just live inside of them. We get to make them right. We get to make them right. And so we're constantly constructing and reconstructing these perfect moments, and I mean, it's unreal. So it doesn't ever feel like dry and boring. It just feels like, oh yeah, here we go. What else can I find inside of this?
Next question.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey.
Congratulations on the Tony nomination.
Thank you.
So as you said, the show is very affecting, very moving. So there must be some lighthearted moments that you guys share as a cast off the show during rehearsals. Is there anything funny, some pranks that you guys have shared? Any stories you'd like to share with us?
Well, this is a really, really funny group of people. I'm the least funny, and I consider myself to be a fairly amusing person, but everybody's so damn funny that I just kind of walk around, laughing at everything. And I think there's it's an effortless effort to keep things light backstage. So we have what I like. Our backstage choreography is full of check-in moments. Where this is where we go and we have a glass of water together by the water cooler, and this is where I ask Will Rowland, how'd I do in that last scene, and he tells me all about how I did, but he's never once watched the scene, so it's usually kind of deprecating, like not so good. I could really feel you trying out there, that was some really hard acting there, But, those are the things that are subtly buoyant. And every day before the show, we all gather in a little tiny circle off stage left and, just chat for a second and say, have a good show. It's really sweet.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
So I know you said you've been you've done a bunch of other shows before. How early on did you know that you wanted to be an actor or like do theater? And would you want your daughter to pursue the same career?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is why I finally came back after having a daughter and saying, okay, I'm ready. I'm almost 40 and I'm ready. But it had been a long road for me. I'd sort of fallen into it because my parents had been actors, and theater was actually kind of the thing that saved me from a kind of a troubled childhood. I started acting, and I don't really know why, because I was so shy. I was almost paralyzed with shyness. I couldn't talk to people. I just wanted to read books and be left alone. And it feels like there was a constant effort, like a need to do the theater, because it really got me outside of this shell that I had so thickly constructed for myself, and that it took me a while to appreciate it and to be able to have it as an art form where I felt free enough to really create rather than just like desperately try to get outside of my body, and get over a lot of fear. I never had fear on stage, but auditioning was really a struggle for me. And so I feel like I just kind of had to just decide, okay, I'm never going to be a marine biologist. That was a dream that like I've been an actor, I'm an actor. Let's just own up to that and do it. So I would say it's not until in my 30s that I finally decided to really be an actor, even though I'd been doing it on and off for a long time.
Well, thank God you did.
Yeah.
This show is on Broadway right now, right? How much longer is your run going to be, do you know?
We're all contracted. We were contracted for a year from our opening, so we'll be in it through the fall, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Good luck
keep
on the
going.
Tony. Congratulations on the nomination. Rachel
Thank
Faye
you
Jones,
so
everybody.
much. Thank you, guys.